It's time for the Week in Review. Look at national, regional, and local stories from the past week. Here's Brandon Hansen, Managing Editor of the Chewelah Independent, and Scott Allen, Managing Director of Northern Lights Public Radio.
On this week's show, again, we are going to start off with Brandon's quick hitters. And up first, you want a KCHW update?
Yeah, tell me what's going on with the transmitter, Scott.
So we haven't got a word back yet this week on the repairs or whether they're finished yet. But we have gotten some good news from, Chewelah is a plethora of people with talents. We have someone here that actually used to own a business that built transmitters. He's helped us before, and he stepped forward to help us again. And his ideas are going to save us quite a bit of money.
Awesome.
And we've got a plan. While it's down, I think I talked about it before, is we had problems with the vendor on the project originally, and they delivered wrong antennas twice. They were within tolerances. We used them, but it's very suspicious to whether that might have caused our fire problem with the piece of it, the transmitter that burned out. So since we're down off our main transmitter, we want to make sure it's fixed right when we put it back up. So we're making steps to do that, and we think we've actually got that vendor previously to should be shipping us by the end of the month 3 brand new matching antennas.
Really? Oh,
so,
that's great news.
Yeah, so that's great news. Something that in order to make that right, if when the factory comes back and says yes, that was your problem, we've got the options to fix it correctly.
Oh, that's
so
fantastic.
That's cool. And it's cool that the vendor has come back around and is going to make it right after those issues. So.
Right. Well, it's fantastic. You won't have to worry about machinery breaking out in flames because that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the last thing we want to do since we operate with the public's money.
Right.
Is spend that unwisely or just get the transmitter back and immediately throw it on the air and then have another problem. There's going to be need some testing and really we don't know what we'll find because the main suspicion that they're saying too is it ran hot for all the time. And it looks like it got hit by lightning.
Oh, boy.
And which was a strange time of year, but we did have 2 storm fronts where we had that warm weather at the end of January, coupled with it turning into winter for February, and that day of that transition, that storm, is the day we went down. So there is a chance that it was a lightning strike. So.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, having a big tower on top of a hill tends to attract the lightning there.
So we're waiting on the last of the information before we actually know what they think caused it. And then some other good news for the station. We have had 4 families step forward to sponsor this year's Chewelah's Got Talent. We're going to bring it back this year and do Chewelah's Got Talent 5. And we have 4 families that are ponying up the prize money. Ooh. And those are the Ludwigs, the Haydens, the Larsons, and the Evans.
Oh, nice.
We'll be sponsoring this year's Chewelah's Got Talent. And that'll be on May 4th. So May the 4th be with you.
Can I make some mac and cheese for some prizes or something? Would that be okay?
Brandon cooking? I don't know if that'll be any good.
You sound like my girlfriend now.
We'll let your girlfriend cook something.
Right. Okay. Moving on to more budget stuff, I guess. The Chewelah School District has a bit of a budget shortfall this year. So they are, I believe, laying off a few people, a few classified staff for the rest of the year. And then they'll kind of have to, moving forward, really look at the budget because with this, this is going to be very complicated, but the McCleary decision, which said the state has to fund education. Because before the state kind of funded education and then, schools would pass levies to kind of fill in all that fun expense stuff. Well, now the state does fund education, but the school doesn't have as much local control in terms of, hey, let's pass a levy so we can have enough money to do this or this or this. There's a limit to levies now and stuff.
Wow.
And then with any state budget, you're kind of waiting to see what the numbers are from year to year, depending on, what the legislature decides to do with the budget. So it's very complicated and it's very hard to spend money and run an organization when you don't know what kind of money you're going to have coming down the pipe.
So it sounds like this might be a bad thing for Washington schools?
They're trying to fix it again. They're trying to come up with a bill that would let schools continue to pass local levies that will shore up all that. All those kind of local funding issues, but it's been somewhat contentious.
Well, it just feels like we got out of the contract negotiations.
Right.
And then people are getting laid off, so that seems a little strange too.
And it's a very complicated issue, and we could spend a half hour on it, kind of deal. So
I've had upset locals come into the station and talk about it.
Right.
So yeah.
Right. And it's just one of those things where we do have a story in the Independent this week, kind of explaining some things about it. But this is probably an ongoing thing. We're gonna have to see, and this just isn't Chewelah. You can get upset about Chewelah. It's across the state. I believe Vancouver schools just laid off 50 teachers.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of.
It sounds like it's a big hit for education.
Yes. Well, I think
at least now until they get it worked out.
Yeah, and at least until they get it worked out. Like anything concerning government and things like that, you do something, you think you got it fixed, and then
you find out the repercussions of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a hard thing. Funding all education isn't just something you can pass a bill and be like it's fixed. So
wow,
it's kind of hard. But
all right. You have an update for us on the Wayne Peck assault? Too,
yeah,
right?
This is another story we're working on. Charges have been filed both ways in terms of Wayne Peck, as you all know, was assaulted by his workplace, which is, I believe, the Chewelah recycling area. He was sent to the hospital with pretty severe injuries there. Well, now, after investigators have kind of looked into it, they have brought up charges against the person they believe who assaulted him, which right now the suspect is believed to be Justin Briggs. And then they've also brought charges up against Wayne Peck because this incident in terms of the assault at his place stemmed what they think happened at a local grocery store where they believe Mr. Peck had grabbed one of the employees' hair and pulled out a knife or something and threatened to cut it off, kind of deal, maybe even jokingly, but still that is also assault because you're pulling out a weapon. So it kind of looks like this case is going both ways.
Wow, that's going to be a confusing one, huh?
Yeah, that is going to be a confusing one. I'm sure there are all sorts of sides to that story there. So this will be an interesting trial date if it goes to that at the Stevens County Courthouse there. And what's funny is they run usually these two cases right after one another on the docket.
Because they're related?
Right. Well, because, yeah, they're related there. And so that must be an interesting incident there at the courthouse there. So
it might end up, and that's a speculation, but a situation where everybody goes to jail.
I don't know.
That's tough one.
And with these assaults, I know they can carry some they look like heavy sentences, but we all know they usually get plead down, and it doesn't come up to a lot of serious jail time or anything like that. So it's kind of funny how our justice system works there. But let's move on to our main story here. Starting off, more wolf stuff. Sorry to keep throwing wolf stories.
This one's a little different, though.
Yeah, this is a little different. Gray wolf lifted from national protection. U.S. wildlife officials are lifting protections on gray wolves in the lower 48 states after the predator is rebounding in terms of population in some regions of the country. This comes from the Associated Press. Conflicts with farmers and ranchers have made headlines for years in this state, and the decision is sure to bring up some legal resistance from conservation groups. Northern Washington, as we all know, has been part of that wolf recovery, as wolves have, while they haven't been relocated here, they've been migrating here from Idaho and Yellowstone and probably even down from Canada. And we have the highest concentration in the state in terms of wolves. It still is only...
Right here, huh?
Yeah, right here. Now, the numbers are still, I believe, still under or hovering around 200, either under 200 or hovering around that. So not a gigantic, huge population, but when you have predators, that you tend to take notice there. So, and this has been going on in terms of recovery for gray wolves since 1975, when there were only 1,000 wolves left in the U.S., and that was in northern Minnesota. And now the U.S. estimates there's about 5,000 gray wolves living in the U.S., including in Washington. Some conservation groups have already released statements denouncing the lifting of the protections and taking a few hits at President Trump, since the Fish and Wildlife falls under the president's umbrella umbrella of organizations there. The bulk of the gray wolves do live in the western Great Lakes and northern Rockies, which I'm a little bit unsure. Are we part of the northern Rockies? Can you assume our little mountain range is part of the Rockies? I would have to think so, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're in the Rockies. Okay.
Foothills.
Yeah, foothills there. So there are areas where you can hunt wolves, especially in Idaho. I believe in Montana, too. And, they try and reintroduce the wolves in Yellowstone, which is Montana, Wyoming, and then in central Idaho in about the mid-90s. So this is just another, step in this whole gray wolf saga we've been going through right here. Now, one thing to point out is the state does have different, they can still have protection on the wolves, regardless of what the U.S. says and things like that, back and forth. So, so it's a complicated issue, but the Fish and Wildlife did release, for the state, did release a statement concerning, hey, this is how we decide if, we're going to lift protection on the wolves, and they had a whole press release on it, and, a lot of science goes into it. Hey, are they recovering? Is something going to come along and really knock down that population? Is this a healthy population of wolves, and all that kind of stuff? So a very complicated matter. I'm sure this tends to get people riled up here, but as of right now, the U.S. is looking at lifting that endangered species protection on wolves there.
All right. We have another story. A Deer Park woman who was sentenced to 6.5 years for killing her boyfriend. Gloria Redmond will spend 6.5 years for killing her boyfriend, Michael Ahlstrom, and leaving his body wrapped in a tarp outside their Deer Park home in late 2016. Excuse me. On her forehead was smeared ash for Ash Wednesday for beginning of Lent. She said, "Me and Michael had planned a life together, and that was cut short." Redmond, 63, pleaded guilty to manslaughter as part of her plea deal. She had been charged with murder. Plea deal and jail time frustrated the family of the 54-year-old Ahlstrom, who was shot in the chest in November of 2016 at Redmond's Deer Park home. She left his body in her driveway. It was discovered days later by a group of people who agreed to help Redmond move items from her yard into her truck.
Yeah, can you imagine that? You're trying to help somebody out, and then you go to their place, and there's a dead body.
One of the things you're yeah. Wow.
I just, boy.
It's not funny, but wow.
It's not funny.
That's, how do you, what kind of state of mind are you in to do that? That's the big question.
Yeah, what kind of state of mind, and and now, like the family said, 6.5 years for killing her boyfriend, but, the court always brings in different circumstances and things like that, and age may have something to do with that, too. If you're a little bit older, they tend to cut down those sentences.
A little bit more lenient.
Yeah. And this, this is just a weird story to me. I cannot imagine. And this is in Deer Park. This isn't like out in the woods somewhere, or,
Nobody heard the gunshot or nothing. That's weird, too.
Yeah, and it's just like laying out in a tarp in the city, and it's just like,
hey, can you pick this up and move it for me?
Isn't that something from like a movie? Like, it really seems like it, doesn't it? Like,
it does. It's not possible.
No.
Well, something kind of exciting for a Spokane native doing a spacewalk?
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited about this.
This is cool.
We're talking about space. Spokane native to be part of the first all-female spacewalk for NASA. Spokane native Anne McLean will be making history as part of NASA's first all-female spacewalk at the International Space Station. McLean and fellow astronaut Christina Koch will be conducting the March 29th spacewalk on part of Expedition 59. NASA's terrible at naming their missions. So, that sounds like a really bad sci-fi sequel. Expedition 59. It's expected to take 7 hours of them kind of floating around in space. Canadian Space Agency flight controller Kristen Fasolil, hopefully I said that right, will be supporting McLean and Koch on the console at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. The spacewalk will be the second of 3 planned spacewalks during Expedition 59 to upgrade batteries. See, even batteries go bad on the space station, which were delivered on the Japanese high transfer vehicle last summer, according to NASA. I wonder if those were Sony batteries. It will mark the second spacewalk for McLean, who is also conducting a March 22nd spacewalk with astronaut Nick Hague.
Well, how fun is that?
That's really cool, and it's Spokane has had a few astronauts people from this area that have been able to go either up in the space shuttle or, in fact, one actually perished in that Columbia. Remember that re-entry accident there? But we've had actually a good chunk of astronauts kind of go up in space from this area, so that's cool to see. Just somebody from around here do something like that and make history. Spacewalks they're very complicated, and they're kind of dangerous too.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine. And that's a cool thing for women too. They're getting their first all-woman spacewalk. All right, we go into parting shots, and it's sports with Brandon Hanson.
Yes. So, Scott, I know you're a big sports fan.
Oh, yeah.
But with March Madness kind of looming, we're just getting right into the postseason tournament for all these colleges here. And Gonzaga, the men's basketball team, goes into the postseason ranked number 1 in the country.
Wow.
So,
Congrats
move
to
over
them.
Duke.
That's huge, huh?
Yeah, move over Duke, move over North Carolina, move over Huskies. You guys aren't any good.
Look out, here comes Gonzaga.
Yeah, here comes Gonzaga, the number 1 team in the country, and they're obviously, the thing is, their conference is kind of a smaller conference, right? It's not like the Pac-12 or something like that, and their games were usually over by halftime. It just cracked me up, because my dad's a huge Gonzaga fan, basically watches every game. By halftime, when the team was up by like 40, it's like, well, going to bed.
Yeah, there's so much of a point spread.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, I think this game is over.
You got to be a diehard to watch just for the killer plays.
Yeah, exactly. And I think their average margin of victory in conference play was like 30 points or something. It was something ridiculous. So, and they'll go the WCC tournament, which is funny because it has a bunch of like private kind of religious schools, because Gonzaga's like Jesuit, and there's BYU in there. Guess where they have their postseason tournament?
Where?
Las Vegas.
The city of sin.
Yeah, just bring everybody down there to Las Vegas. And it's usually a big event for Gonzaga fans because it's so hard to get tickets like at the McCarthy Center in Spokane. So what they do, it's actually cheaper to fly down to Vegas.
To get your tickets?
Get your tickets, get a hotel. It's actually cheaper to do that than actually watch the Zags in Spokane, which is so funny. And so that's why they always have like big fan groups there in Vegas for the tournament. And then, with that number 1 ranking, they could have if they go through the WCC tournament and don't lose, they could have a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, which is just awesome because that gives you like a really easy team, at least your first 2 rounds of the tournament, and then it gets a little bit tougher. But that would be a good thing for the Zags there.
Very cool. All right,
so,
they're making news across the country.
Yeah,
like that.
Little old Spokane, Washington here. So, well, this isn't Spokane, but
our spring sports going to be delayed.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
Actually, Rocky Verbeck, the AD at Chewelah, sent out the spring sports schedule, and it's so funny in his email. He's basically just laughing and saying, "Yeah, this is our schedule. It might be subject to change." Just with, the foot of snow left on the field. We've also been sent photos. The Chewelah School District maintenance crew has been out on the track snow blowing it, so the track and field athletes can at least try and run out there.
Oh, no, that's funny.
Yeah, so this is where we're at. We're snow blowing, so spring sports athletes can at least get out on their track, so...
All right. Well, I do have some good news speaking about the weather and snow.
Oh, is it going to
get warmer? If you want to hear it.
Yes.
Now, our nighttime lows, once we get past Monday, we won't be dropping below 20 degrees anymore. So that's, at night and during the nighttime hours. And our daytime hours, as of Monday, we hit 39. And by the end of the week, we are in the low 40s. By next weekend, 45 and 46.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to do, we should be maybe seeing some grass by the end of next weekend. Then.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So we're gonna see some melting this weekend, and that'll be a good thing. I don't see any more cold overnight lows after Sunday night. We're down to 19, and then it stays right around 25 for the week. And by March 18th, it shows overnight lows right around freezing.
Okay.
So spring is coming. It's just being slow about it.
It's just being slow.
But we're gonna feel it warming up next week. Sunday, almost 40 degrees with sunshine. We're gonna love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I know yesterday I got out during the middle of the day just to do some firewood, and I was looking around and I'm like, boy, this is like that. Things were melting and kind of, just it had that feel where it's like, oh boy, this isn't going to be around much longer. It kind of felt like
I
that.
stepped out last night, around 6, and felt rain hitting me. It
Yeah.
turned to snow as the night went on, but I was like, yeah.
Just
That's
rain.
rain. I felt that before.
Although today is a little slick on the
It
roads.
is.
It was
It
a little,
is.
whew, so.
It's ending, though. All right. I think that's our show for a week, right?
I think that's our show. So.
I'm Scott Allen.
I'm Brandon.
Thanks for listening to the Week in Review with Brandon Hansen, Managing Editor of the Chewelah Independent, and Scott Allen, Managing Director of Northern Lights Public Radio. Past episodes are in video format on the Chewelah Independent's website and on KCHW's YouTube channel. This program was recorded and filmed at the KCHW FM studios in Chewelah, Washington.